Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closures.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Deborah Everson, a keynote speaker, former retail business owner, exit planning advisor, and city council member who speaks on finding identity, purpose, and joy after success. After transforming and successfully selling her family's hardware store, Deborah retired at the age of 48, only to discover that achieving the dream didn't bring the fulfillment she expected. What followed was an unexpected season of identity loss, hustle, comparison, and ultimately clarity. Today, Deborah shares her story to help high achievers navigate life beyond achievement and reconnect with joy, purpose, and community. With that being said, Deborah, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you so much, Milan. I am just so thrilled to be here with you and to just share just some fun insights and learnings with you and your audience today.
Oh, I love that. Deborah, I'm very much looking forward to the conversation. I'm not going to waste any time here. We're going to jump right into it. And what I love to do at the beginning of every single episode is a bit of traveling back in time. So before you even had this company, sold this company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the business?
Well, first off, I have to say that I love the title Founders Future because I am the one coming to you from the future to tell you that you can successfully build, grow, and sell your business. So I'm so thrilled to be able to share that and to let founders know that success does happen. So before all of this started, I was actually working as an IT project manager, making a six-figure income when I married into the hardware business. And I always say that God has a great sense of humor because I said I'm not handy and I hated retail. And then I ended up marrying into the hardware business. So, about 2 years into our marriage, my husband, our business was actually really struggling, and we had to have some hard conversations. And so, my husband asked if I would leave my job and come work full time at the store and be their project manager to try to help turn things around. And, honestly, it was kind of a bit of a scary experience because like I said, had no retail experience. And so how could I bring my experience as an IT project manager to turn a hardware retail store around? And so it's a fun story to be able to share of how we took a store that was struggling, turning it around, making it a pillar in our community to ultimately being able to successfully sell it.
I love that. Obviously, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of adjusting along the way. You had some own challenges with the business, even getting into the business. So we're going to talk about all of that though. But can you help us paint a better picture of what really happened in the business? What was it like running the business? When did you decide to sell the business? And what have you pivoted towards now?
So when things weren't going well, our numbers were dwindling. We were kind of struggling to get customers into the door. We would always hear, I've been everywhere, and then I came to your store and I found what I needed. We had become our customers' last resort, and that's really hard to hear. So what we did is we did a customer survey to find out why our customers were and weren't shopping at our store. And Milan, one of the biggest obstacles for us was getting in and out of our location. And that was the number one complaint from our customers. But that was something we had no control over. We had been asking our city for a frontage road for 30 plus years, and they just weren't providing it. And so I had to think about what could we do to overcome that obstacle and make our store so intriguing and so inviting that people would want to just come there in spite of the hardness of getting in and out of our location. And so the other feedback that we received was that they loved that we were family owned, that we were a place that they could come to and they knew they would get help. And so what we did is we played on our strengths and we created a warm, welcoming boutique style hardware store. We added home decor. We had a beautiful paint counter where people could come and sit and look at paint samples and also do crafts and classes. And so we started hosting in-person events for families and kids. And then having that home decor made it a place where women wanted to come and shop. So we became something more than just a hardware store. And we were able to go from being our customers' last resort to becoming their first choice. And that was really fun and exciting to be a part of seeing how you could change a community's perspective. One of the other pieces of feedback we've received is that we weren't very welcoming. Well, that was something on us. That was something we could change. And so when business owners are thinking about why are we struggling? Why are we not getting people in the door? Sometimes you have to go and ask the hard questions and have those conversations, not only with your customers, but with your employees, with your for us, we were family owned. And so with your family and being willing to step into that and then say, what are the things we can change? And then how do we overcome the obstacles, the things that are harder for us to change? Well, then, as you know, in 2020, COVID hit. But we were ready. We were ready for an increase in business because we had made those changes. We had already been re-engaged with our community. And so we went from, starting a good customer base coming back to then exploding because we were an essential business. And at that time, the only other hardware store in town closed. So now we had COVID business and then we had additional business on top of that. And so another hardware store owner came and asked if we'd be interested in selling. And at that time, it did not work for us to sell to them. But what it did do is it said, hey, we have something of value here. What would it look like if we did sell? And so we took the next 2 years and started to prepare our business for sale, going through all of our inventory, getting everything updated, making sure our store was clean, our books were clean, doing all of the things that a good exit needs. And so in 2022, we actually ended up approaching our buyer and did some, letters and stuff. And they called our attorney and said, absolutely, we're interested in finding out more about this store. And so from when we had that process until the end, when we sold, it was 10 months. So when we first engaged with them to the end, it was a 10-month process. But, through all of that, we learned about how to prepare your business for exit. What are all of those things that go into preparing your business for exit? And then also it was helpful for us then to start preparing emotionally to letting the business go because it had been in my husband's family for 56 years and it was a second generation business.
Absolutely. I love how you put this though, because obviously there was a lot that you need to do for this situation to turn over completely. Obviously, the store was succeeding then, but also if you look at the structure of businesses that people run, there is not that many people who actually run the business with the exit strategy in mind. They're running the business just for the business to be run, right? Which is a huge mistake from my perspective. So I love how you emphasize this. Now, when it comes to selling the business, if there is anybody listening to the podcast right now and thinking about maybe selling their business in the future, if you retrospectively look back at that process, what would you say should be like a key takeaways from the whole process, and what should people focus on the most?
Start planning now. So most people, especially if you're a founder, you're so in the hustle, you're so in the grind, trying to just build a business that you don't even think that an exit would even be possible. But as you continue to build your business, you're building value. And so you need to start preparing for the what if and what would it look like if somebody were to buy my business? Excuse me. Uh,
We have another guest.
yes, we have another guest who absolutely loves Zoom. And when you're, uh, so one of my key things is as a founder, start with the end in mind. What would it look like if somebody were to buy my business? What does success look like to me? And start preparing and planning with the end in mind. And what we're finding as I had worked with business owners over the last 3 years is that a lot of times, especially in retail, they don't think there's any value in their business.
Hmm.
And so they think they're going to work until they just decide to close their doors. And especially in the hardware business, when a hardware store closes, that leaves a huge gap in a community. And so, if an owner starts preparing and seeing the value in their business, they can not only continue their legacy, they can create value for their community for years to come. And so, thinking about it from not only your perspective as a business owner, but thinking about it from your community's perspective, if we were to close, what impact would that have on our community? And that was one of the things that we looked at, especially as we were looking at who would be a good buyer for our business. If our store closed, our community would have had no hardware store. And that was to us felt like a detriment. And so we wanted to find a buyer that would be able to continue our legacy for years to come and keep a hardware store going. And we have had so many people in our community thank us for keeping that hardware store going. And that's something, even though it's not named the same anymore, we know that that's a legacy that we got to leave to our community. And so as an owner, I know it's probably the long way around of saying this. As an owner, begin with the end in mind and start thinking about what would it look like? What would success and a successful sale look like and feel like to me?
Mm. Begin with the end in mind. I absolutely love that, though. Obviously, if you can be strategic about the whole situation, then definitely, definitely. Deborah, I'm thinking about this one thing, though, and I want to talk about it because I feel like there's not a lot of people who can confidently say that them as business owners, they successfully retired at the age of 48. So we're going to talk about this stuff because obviously there was a lot of learning lessons that you took with you from the business and the successful exit. And now you're leveraging all of that in a different way. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is Deborah doing now and how you're leveraging on all of those learning lessons. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so when we sold the store, we wanted to be able to help other business owners through the sales process. And so I thought, let's get our exit planning certification. And so my husband and I did. And as I was going through it, it was really a struggle as far as like just feeling fulfilled in doing that. Yes, it's something that I'm passionate about and excited about, and I love helping owners through that process. But I still wasn't feeling a real true sense of purpose. And so then I started really sharing about how to create exceptional customer experiences through hosting in-person events. And still, just things weren't feeling like they were coming together for me. And so, what I decided to do was take a step back and I just stopped. I stopped doing everything and I didn't quit. But what I realized is that I needed to take a step back and take some time to listen to myself. I had not, I wasn't planning on retiring at 48 years old. This was, most people when they retire, they have time to kind of think about it and plan. I had no idea that, when we started this journey, that we were actually going to successfully sell our business. And so I took some time and said, what is it that I want to talk about? What am I doing? And so I started looking around and I found out that I was already living my purpose. I started with a group of people in our community, which has now become a nonprofit, a festival and events committee for our city. So we bring community members and business owners together to create large scale events that help build community. So I went from helping build community in our business to now building community in our city, in an entire city. And so I saw that I was already living out my purpose, but I needed to take a step back and take some time to say and look around. What is it that you're already doing that brings you joy? And I think a lot of times when people retire, even maybe like they're empty nesters, or you have a success, maybe you've won the Super Bowl, or, something exciting like that. What are you doing now? What's the next thing? And a lot of times you may already be living that out. You just need to take the time to look around and to see, what is it that I'm already doing that brings me joy? I think one of the other things that was kind of holding me back was I was thinking I needed to get paid for it. I didn't need the money. So why was I worried about finding something that I needed to be paid for? And so when I stopped and took some time to listen to myself and see what I was actually already doing, I found out that I was already living my purpose. The other thing I needed to do was to quit comparing myself to others' journey. It's so easy to look at what everybody else is doing and compare our journey to everyone else's highlight reels, right? That what's going on social media. And, here I'm on city council. I had somebody point out, like, do you understand you are a high achiever? And I'm going, I'm not doing anything. And they're like, you ran and won for city council. You started an events that is bringing a whole, events committee that's bringing a whole city together. Do you understand what you actually are doing? And so sometimes it takes other people to help us too, to see we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people's journey and start looking at our own journey. And then the last thing is that I needed to take some time to celebrate my wins. And I want to encourage founders, as you're going into the new year, it's so easy for us to push forward, because especially if you're a high achiever and you are a goal setter, you just want to keep moving on to the next thing. Yep, I achieved that goal. Next thing. Take time to stop and acknowledge your wins and celebrate those before you just push through and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I love how much emphasis you actually put on this, because comparison really is the thief of joy. Isn't that the case?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, and Theodore Roosevelt actually is the one with credited saying that comparison is the thief of joy. But I tell you that comparison not only steals your joy, it steals your identity. And you start to lose who you are as you're trying to be everybody else or compare yourself to what everyone else is doing. You may see all of these influencers and people on TikTok and online and LinkedIn and Facebook, but maybe inside you don't feel like you don't feel comfortable posting all of that stuff and being that person. You may be somebody who likes to be behind the scenes and making a difference and an impact just right where you're at. And that is perfectly okay. And you're still making a difference. You're still making an impact. You can still be a founder and you can still build an awesome business.
yeah, I absolutely love this. Deborah, just to circle back to something just for a
Yeah.
second here, and just to clarify for somebody listening to this right now, if they're maybe not that familiar with your story, basically with the consulting and coaching activities that you were taking after the successful exit, it basically started as a paid service, which you were doing for those business owners, and then you pivoted to basically now doing it as a nonprofit. Is that the case?
Actually what the nonprofit has become is the Festival and Events Committee for our city. So that's
Mhm.
very different from what I do with my quote unquote business. So the keynote speaking, coaching, consulting, all of that is something separate from what
I
I
get
do with my city. So it was really about just finding my purpose in how I love bringing groups of people together to build community. And so that's how that part got started as far as the nonprofit piece.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that,
Yeah.
though. I misunderstood you there. But looking at the situation now, obviously, this is taking some of your time. You completely found your purpose in those activities, but you're still also dabbling into the consulting and coaching. I'm curious, when it comes to consulting and coaching, is this currently still like a business that you have in mind that is supposed to be growing and scaling? Or what is the general idea of where you want to take this business?
That's a great question. So now I'm in a place where I don't have to scale and hustle and grind and grow the business. What I'm actually enjoying doing now is sharing with people my new signature talk. Winning isn't the finish line, finding identity, purpose, and joy after success. And so, really focusing on just sharing that with audiences. And I would love to be able to share that speech with audiences, around the globe. And then, as people need, I have been able to still do the coaching and consulting. It's just that is not my main focus at this time. So, I'm just taking it low and slow. And I tell people I'm enjoying life in the slow lane right now. And, as things progress, we'll see if I, do decide to create a strategy where I do want to grow and scale. But right now, I've decided that that's not something that I have to do. And you know what? That feels really good.
Oh, I bet it does, though. I was again just about to say, though, there is not a lot of people who are in a similar position and they can confidently say something like this. Deborah, what an exciting story. I just have so many questions, though. I need to collect myself here for a second. But typically, what I do towards the end of the podcast, we also want to discover what is really going to happen next. And now, knowing that you want to primarily focus on sharing the message with a ton of people, with the masses, doing a lot of public speaking, doing the keynotes. What is your strategy about making around making that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have joined an organization called the National Speakers Association here in Minnesota, and so I'm a part of that. But then, and I'm part of their speaker academy, and so they really help you work on the business of speaking. The other thing that I'm doing is that I reach out to people, on a very frequent basis, asking, "Here's my message." And that can be with chambers, it can be with rotaries, it can be, corporations, schools. And so it's my job now as I want to get my message out. I have to make those calls and I'm doing it. But you know what? I'm so excited about this message and sharing my message. I'm confident now when I have to make those phone calls and I get to make those phone calls and share my message with those people and ask, "Hey, I would love to be on your calendar in 2026." And you know what? It's fun to hear their reception. And so, even though like I said, I'm enjoying life in the slow lane, I still need to make calls and still ask people, and let them know that I have a message to share and then ask to be put on their calendar in 2026 and 2027. And so I'm still doing the work. I just don't need to do it, let's say, maybe feel like it's a hustle.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's what accountability and ownership actually looks like.
Yeah,
You're not going to be delusional and feel like something is just going to fall into your lap,
right.
right? So I absolutely love this. Now, Deborah, when you think about impacting all of those lives and really following up on those dreams and goals that you just shared with us, I'm curious, out of everything, what would you expect to really become the biggest challenge on that journey or the biggest challenge to make that happen?
One of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot of people right now that say that they're keynote speakers. And and
True.
there's a lot of people, and with AI and stuff like that, it can be easy, right? So people can just type something in and say, "Yep, I can do this." But finding my differentiator, which is the lived experience of going from, taking a business that was flailing and failing to growing it, scaling it, ultimately selling it, and then feeling like I lost my purpose and identity to being able to find it, and then now to be able to help other people through that. And I think the thing that made the most impact for me was I had given this just a brief talk on this one day, and a gentleman came up to me with tears in his eyes and said, "Thank you. This is exactly what I needed to hear." And that to me confirmed that I am on the right path and that this is a topic that is on people's minds, especially people that have transitioned out of a job or transitioned into retirement or, like I said, are empty nesters and are looking for purpose and meaning and identity after something that they've reached a big goal in their life.
Yeah, I believe that though. There is definitely a lot that you can share. So, I also got a one last question though. I'm just thinking about the fact that as we progress through the conversation, you managed to drop several golden nuggets here. So, first of all, I'm hoping that anybody listening to this right now, if you weren't listening carefully, just wind back a little bit, okay? But Deborah, before I let you go, if you retrospectively, excuse me, if you retrospectively look back at your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner, if you could travel back in time and maybe speak to yourself at the very, very beginning of that entrepreneurial journey, what would be a single best piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Consistency is key.
Oh, yes.
You have to show up every day. So, one of my goals this year is to make one post, whether it's one word, one sentence, a paragraph, a video. For me, I know that in order to get my message out there, I need to make one post a day. And I need to do it consistently. And that is the key. And that was one of the things I learned when we had our store too, is that I needed, in order for us to stay top of mind, I needed to consistently be posting on our social media. I needed to consistently be interacting with our audience, with our customer base. Here's the thing, it can be very discouraging when you're posting and you're not getting very many clicks, likes, hits, looks, whatever you want to call it. But when customers started coming in my door and saying, "I came in because I saw your post," they maybe didn't like it. I had no idea maybe that they were following me. But you know what? I knew I was reaching my audience. And so I want to encourage you to consistently keep showing up for your customers, for your audience, however that looks for you and what you need to do, but keep it going consistently. Keep working your business and moving it forward in one simple step every day, because that's how things compound. That's how your business continues to grow. And eventually that's how it scales.
Yeah, I was about to add something in terms of compounding, but you already said it for me. So,
Sorry.
Deborah, I mean, beautifully said. There's literally nothing for me to add to this. At this point, Deborah, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time today, sharing this beautiful journey and story with me and the entire audience. If anybody from the listeners would like to reach out, connect with you, perhaps one day even work with you, what is the best way to go about it?
You can reach me on all the social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, and I also have a website, deborahEverson.com. So if people want to connect with me there, but I'm always open to connecting on all the different social media, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm here, I'm there. So I would love to connect with people and feel free to reach out with any questions or things that you just want to talk through.
Deborah is everywhere. So just reach out.
Yes.
All the social platforms. Beautiful. Again, Deborah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Milan. This was very fun.
Pleasure. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a coach, consultant, or you have an agency, and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from 0 to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.